Hi guys, you're watching another episode of Riot and Reviews where we review episodes of Insecure Season 3. I'm Tanisha.
And I'm Courtney.
Thanks for tuning back in for the last episode of the season. This is episode 8 and it's called Ghost Like.
Aw, the season's over.
It's sad.
It is sad. But we must move on,
Yes.
unfortunately. But I guess, how are we going to start this episode?
Let's review the rye.
All right.
So I made this week's concoction and I'm calling it the Witch's Brew. It has apple cider, rye of course, and some cinnamon in it, and a little dash of vermouth. So I just threw this together and I made up the name Witch's Brew so we can take a sip. You can let me know what you think. What do you think?
It's not bad.
Okay.
Yeah. The apple cider is pretty strong, but you can still taste the rye in it. It's not bad.
So yeah, I thought it was a nice drink to have, especially now that we're moving into more of fall weather, and it goes along with the theme of the episode Ghost Like, sort of reminds me of Halloween, like a little prop here. So yeah, it's just something that I came up with, and a good way to spike your apple cider beverages as you go forward. All right, you want to start out?
Sure. So let's start out this week by saying thank you guys for commenting, continuing to comment on our episode, watching and liking, and reaching out to us via, YouTube or Facebook, or even texting us directly. And last week we got a comment from Natalie. Apparently, and I will have to say across all platforms, whether it was on our show or any other show that I saw last week or in chat groups that I was in, everybody was talking about the ghosting situation or the slow fade situation. And last week on the show I said, the study said that it was actually the better way to do it. And someone called me out actually, and said, oh, we're going to have to post a link to it. And I did post a link to the article I was referring to. Apparently I was having this conversation 5 years ago, back in 2013, with a colleague. That's how I remembered it, because we were having this conversation about whether it's better to slow fade somebody or to ghost somebody. And that article came out, surprisingly, the same week we were having the conversation. But there is someone who calls themselves, or who has written a book or wrote many books about dating, a dating expert, who actually called it a polite way to end a relationship, in the article at least. So this has been going on for a while. Whether or not ghosting is the correct way to do it, or it's impolite, it's not the right way to do it, it's effed up. This conversation is going to go on forever because ghosting is not going to end. And I was talking to Tanisha before the episode, saying that in my experience, most of the females I know are the ghosters. Most of the women I know are the ghosters. For instance, I'm just thinking about my best friend in college. She was so much of a ghoster, so good at ghosting. She would ghost people that she would have to see after the weekend was over in her first class on Monday. It'd just be like, nah, we didn't go on a date on Friday. It wasn't me. It must have been somebody else. I mean, most of the women I know are the ghosters, so I don't understand why people are so up in arms about this.
I mean, this is your own personal experience, so you did condition your comments on that. I don't know who invented ghosting. All I know is that when you're on the receiving end of it, it doesn't feel very good. And even when you're doing it, depending on the circumstances, it just doesn't feel great. You've never regretted ghosting someone?
I would have to say I'm probably way more of a softie when it comes to that, and most people who know me would probably not believe that, because I'm not much of a softie in real life. But the one thing I am susceptible to is I find it hard to not respond to people's text messages and phone calls, even when I'm not even in the best position to do so. It'll still drive me nuts, so I have to respond. Or I know I don't want to respond because it's going to get me into a situation that I don't want to be in, but I'll still respond. So I actually want to be a better ghoster because I feel like there are a lot of conversations I just don't owe people and I don't want to have, and I don't want to go through the back and forth of no, I don't really want to hang out. Nah, I really have something else to do. Like, how many times can you tell somebody no before they get the idea? Like, you just have to cut them off.
That's something different. So in each situation and other situations that I've been through, it's been like abrupt. Like one day you're talking, fine, and then the next day you don't hear from them, and then you don't hear from them for a period of time. So in that situation, that's where I feel like that's not the way to go about it. But if it's a situation where you don't really know the person well, y'all maybe like just talked on the phone, went out for like drinks or whatever the case may be, I'm not really as opposed to it. But I have been in a situation where I didn't even go out on a date with the guy. I could just tell, like, soon after I gave this guy my phone number, it wasn't going anywhere. And so I thought I was just going to, like, ghost him. Like, you know, we didn't really talk. There wasn't anything there. But he was very persistent. He was leaving voicemails. You know, people don't leave voicemails nowadays.
Right.
And then finally he was like, look, you can at least give me the respect of an explanation. Like, tell me why you're not responding. And so he called me out on it. And so because he called me out directly on it, I did let him know how I felt. Like, I felt like he was coming on too strong. I felt like we weren't compatible. I felt like it wasn't going to go anywhere. So I was up front with him. And then he still got offended. So you never know what's going to happen. And even though he still got offended, I will say that at least I let him know, like, this is where I'm coming from. And this is why I don't feel like it's going to work out. But yeah, you can't predict how people are going to react. But in that situation, I'm like, we didn't really have a connection. We didn't really go out, so I didn't feel as bad. But he did call me out on it.
I think that's what has spawned this idea of it's okay to ghost people, is because whether you've known somebody for 2 minutes or you've known them for 2 years, as soon as you say, I'm not interested, everybody catches an offense. And it's like, okay, the person you've been dealing with for 2 years and you ghost them, they might have the right to have a feeling about it.
Yeah.
But the person that you've known for 2 minutes and you just, okay, well, it was cute, we met at the bar, we exchanged numbers so that I could get out of this conversation easily or whatever, but I don't actually want to speak to you, you don't really deserve an explanation. Like, walk away. We don't know each other.
I agree.
But it doesn't happen that way. Everybody catches an offense. It's like, people think that they are owed a date or owed an explanation on why there won't be a next date. And it's like, not always. You don't always get that.
I agree. No, I do agree with that. I agree.
So, taking that and moving it into this week's episode, which was called Ghost Like, the one thing we saw, we thought was a theme, and I don't know if I'm getting too far ahead, but we can always jump back and forth. But the people that you do ghost, or the deaths of your relationships, seem to always come back to haunt you for good or for bad. So, this is Issa's birthday episode, and, the big elephant in the room, or the elephant that was missing from the room in the last episode, was Nathan.
Right.
And we open up the episode with, Molly getting Issa ready for her birthday, going to pick her up, and guess who's walking up with a bouquet of flowers?
Now, this is what I didn't expect. I really thought we were going to be done with Nathan the last episode, so I was surprised that they brought him back. And I will say, I'm hesitant to do this, but I do want to give him maybe 1 or 2, I guess, bonus points, brownie points, for at least showing up in person with flowers. Because a lot of people, if they do come back and haunt you, they'll just, like, come back like nothing ever happened. Like, oh, hey, what's up? What's going on? Like, no, like, you disappeared. And now all of a sudden you're just going to come back and send me a random text. So I do give him points for at least, trying to go and face her in person and making a gesture. That being said, Molly wasn't having it. How did you feel about that? Because I know how you feel about Molly jumping into Issa's relationships. So how did you feel about her being like Issa's ride or die in this situation?
I like the allegiance, and I like where she was coming from. I knew it was going to get her in trouble at the end of the episode. Like, I knew when she was doing it, like, this isn't going to work out well for you, really? Molly. I mean, it's set up. It's a TV show.
I'll be honest. I didn't see what was going to happen eventually. To be honest, I didn't see it turning that way. But okay.
I could see it going that way. One, because it had been an entire month, and Nathan was still showing back up with flowers, and he was determined. And it almost felt like, at first, I thought he was going to tell Molly, like, this is between, she and I. You can have an opinion, but you're not going to stop me from walking through this gate. He was a gentleman. He walked away. Molly thought that she solved the problem for her girl, drama-free birthday. And, I like that she stepped up for her and everything. But at the same time, Issa's a big girl. So she could have said, hey, she is in this space right now. It's been a month. I thought that was fucked up. I don't think that you should be here. maybe I'm taking her out for her birthday, step away, I'll let her know that you showed up, I'll have her contact you, type of thing. Maybe she could have handled it that way. So in one regard, she is saying kick rocks,
right?
And she's given Issa the power to figure
Follow
out
up.
if she wants to follow up with her,
Right.
with him, and
Okay.
figure out what's going on.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think Molly acted in a way that my best friend would have reacted. Especially last episode, like I think we really saw Issa at her lowest, and I think it really made Molly upset to see her like that. So I can totally understand her reaction, but there is something to be said for letting your friends fight their own battles. And even though Molly knows what happened in terms of the ghosting, she may not fully know how Issa feels and how Issa wants to welcome back Nathan in her life. So yeah, I think there is something to be said, like, look, she's a big girl. She can make the decision about whether she wants to allow him back in her life. And you've seen that again and again with friends. They're like, oh no, I'm done with him, or I'm done with her. He did me wrong, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then the next week, they out holding hands, skipping down the street. So you just never know what's going to happen. So I do think there's something to be said for letting Issa, make her own choices.
Right. I agree. So good.
Who else had a ghost? Oh, so
Kelly?
Kelly had a ghost. Actually, I was
Kelly had a
going to mention Lawrence, and I guess in this episode it was his dad. Like, they never explicitly said it, but it was his dad in this
It was his
episode.
dad. They didn't necessarily explain it, but he did eventually say, you and mom.
You and mom, that's right.
Which, it was a cute exchange, and he gets some life advice from him. But what was more interesting to me was, why does everyone have parents but Issa? Lawrence has now had his dad in the episode. Molly's parents were part of season 1. I guess Kelly, we haven't met her parents yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do. But we spoke about Issa's parents. We talked about where they used to live before the divorce.
Right.
We've been to the house, but why not include a mom or a dad or somebody?
So last week we did see that text, that Bible verse from her mom, which I thought was so cute. But I kind of sense, without knowing where the writers are going, I kind of sense that there might be like some estrangement there. Because I think you're right. Like, we have seen the other characters, we have seen their parents in different episodes, but not the main characters. But what was it, last season when they had that wind down, and then Issa brought her brother, and she was like, did you call him back? He was like, no. I just get the sense like they're not really close with their parents. So that might be something, and who knows, like the parents may show up next season, because we have heard more and more about them this season, like with the house and with the random text. So maybe next season it might be leading up to that, like her parents might have a role in what's going on in her life next season. But that's a good point.
Right. But Lawrence's dad was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny because he was having sort of like a heart-to-heart with Lawrence, and I think he was giving him advice that you hear a lot from the older generation in terms of talking to the younger generation, how we really don't know how to work at relationships. We expect things to be easy. We expect there not to be difficulty. And so when that doesn't happen, we just give up.
My grandma used to say it all the time. The reason why marriages don't work nowadays is because people aren't willing to fight for it.
I mean, and I appreciate what he's saying. Like, there is some truth to that. But I also feel like there might be a little romanticizing of those relationships. I just feel like years ago, people didn't really have as many options. And maybe it's a good and bad thing that they did it. You really
They
didn't
had
have
plenty of options.
They didn't have but not the options that we have right now. Like, where you can get to somebody just with like an app.
Okay, great, but that person at the end of the app, how are you going to guarantee that that's going to be better than what you're fighting for at home?
I mean, I just feel like because there are so many options, people don't have to make those kind of hard choices like they used to. That's all I'm saying. So
Isn't
yes,
that hard of a choice? You're falling in love with somebody and you guys had a spat.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you decide to go ahead and find somebody on an
I
app.
feel like a lot of
that's
people
a tough choice.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm not going to work, or I'm not going to fight, or I'm not going to do whatever with this person because there's always going to be someone else out there. A lot of people
I agree
do
with
that.
you, and I'm not the most romantic person in the world, but I think that's going to keep you single because you're always going to be looking for the next best thing.
That's my exact point. Like, they didn't have that choice back then. So it's easy for them to say, you know, work at your relationship, put in the work for your relationship, because they didn't really have the choices that we do. That's all I'm saying is, yes, absolutely put the work into your relationship, but at the same time...
But are you supporting, like, swiping right or swiping left? Whichever way you swipe. When something goes wrong, like, which way are you going with this?
I'm not supporting that. I'm just saying that it was a different time. People had different priorities. For example, I think years ago, marriage was much more in the forefront in terms of people's priorities than it is right now. Like, people still value marriage, but not in the same way. So I think it is a little bit more difficult now for people to, you know, hunker down and work at a relationship because people don't prioritize marriage and stable relationships like they used to. That's all I'm saying. Like, yes, obviously put work into your relationship, but things are different. Things have changed.
So things have changed and things are different, and I didn't know we were going this route. But if you believe that, you know, the idea or the perception of marriage, and I'm assuming, like, the monogamy in marriages, would you be open to an open marriage?
I just don't think that's my testimony now.
No?
I don't. I just feel like it's just too loosey-goosey for me. Like, no, I just don't think... Never say never, but I just don't think that's for me.
But do you think that in this climate where you can just swipe left and right and find your new spouse in the drop of a dime, should you be holding so tightly to someone's personhood? Or should you just be holding to what's important to you and that person in the relationship?
But if what is important to me is monogamy and fidelity, then I'm not going to compromise those priorities just because the culture has changed. So, yeah, like, some people...
So you do agree that you should be fighting for your relationship?
I'm not... Why are you twisting my point? I'm saying it's perfectly fine to fight for your relationship. But I'm also saying that the general shift in culture has created a little bit of a tension in terms of long-term
relationships. We suffer
relationships.
from ADD relationship situation.
But that doesn't mean that, for example, I'm going to start looking for, like, an open relationship type situation, because that's not me. Now, for someone else, that might be perfectly fine, but that's not what I value. That's not what I want long-term out of a relationship. So I'm not going to change my values based on what's popular at the moment. I will say that.
Do you fight for your relationships?
Do I fight for my relationships?
Yes. If you guys have a bad
If
week,
I think it's...
will you continue to go, or will you be like,
if I think it's...
maybe we should move on?
If it's something worth saving, I will. But if I don't see it working out, then I won't. I don't think you should fight for something just to fight for it. It has to be something worth fighting for. So.
All right.
I
mean, I agree with you. But at the same time, with the shift in dynamic, I mean, I think that I've definitely moved way closer to, open marriage. Okay, that's fine.
You think you would have an open marriage?
I think that I've moved way closer to that side than I was, like, say, in law school. You know, in law school, I would have been like, nah, or whatever. But I think I've definitely moved way closer to the idea that, like, you can be in a marriage with somebody that's purely about love and emotion and support one another, but it doesn't have to purely be about, okay, we have to have sex with one another for the rest of our lives, and if we stray from that, this is it. Like, is another person that you're having sex with, is sex love, is basically sometimes what it comes down to. Like, do you equate sex to love? And if not, can you separate the two? And if you can successfully separate the two, and sex is just an act, and love is something completely different, and what you're valuing in the relationship is the love situation, and you're able to say the sex act is just an act that you can share with somebody else, then I could see how it could happen. But you'd have to be able to do that. And then some people are like, it's not even just an open relationship in that regard. Like, there are so many different open relationships. They're like thruffles or whatever, where like 3 people are in a relationship together, and it's like there's so many different ways to do it.
I can barely deal with one person.
I mean, at least in the in the relationships that have been described to me, because I don't think I know anyone who's in a throuple, each of them is in a relationship
It's
with
for real
one
called
another.
a thruffle? It's called a thruffle? Okay.
But each of them is in a relationship with another. So if you and I and one of the viewers was in a relationship, you and I would be in a relationship, and I and one of the viewer would be in a relationship, as well as you and the viewer would be in a relationship. And you could each have that relationship space separately. It doesn't always have to be together.
That's too much. It's too much. I just feel like people are complicated enough, and dealing with that one other person is time consuming. So trying to deal with somebody else and their emotions and their whatever needs and wants, I just feel like it makes things complicated. But to each his own. Again, I'm just saying, I don't think it's for me, but if you can work that out, God bless you.
True that. But I think we're getting in the weeds here.
Okay.
Lawrence's dad was great, and he gave us some great love advice or whatever, but I think that Lawrence's dad brought up some things that Lawrence is still wrestling with, and he's going to continue to wrestle with, and that's the fact that he doesn't
still
know.
loves Eason?
He definitely still loves Eason. Eason still loves Lawrence. Let's not
Would you
pretend.
stop?
Let's not pretend.
Let's take the cape
Let's
off
not
for 1
pretend.
second.
They both love each
Take
other. You
the
can see it in
cape
their
off
eyes.
for 1
They
second.
both love each other, and you
Take
guys
the
see
cape
it.
off
She just
for
hates
1
love.
second.
Anyways.
Take the cape off for 1 second.
Anyways.
You'll feel better.
Lawrence still loves Issa, and he still doesn't know if he did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps thinking about it, and every time he's having an interaction with somebody else, his dad, and he's talking about how, oh, you and mom had it easy, and the dad's like, are you kidding me? They had it easy. We both came with our own, luggage or whatever, and we had to work through it. And then when he's talking to Chad, and I really don't like Chad.
He is hilarious. Why don't you like likable characters?
He's
What's
not
the problem?
Anyways,
Chad is
moving
the
right
scoundrel,
along.
but he's funny.
He's not funny.
Yes, he
He's not funny.
is.
He's not funny.
He's funny to me.
He's not funny. Anyways, so even Chad, who gets taken back by his fiance, for good or bad reasons or whatever, makes Lawrence think, oh, so people can be forgiven. That's what I wrote down in my notes. Like, it's almost like Lawrence didn't think that forgiveness could happen, particularly after someone cheated on someone. So he was shocked. Like, she would take you back after you cheated? Like, what did you do or whatever? But Chad also showed him that he had to put in a lot of work to get her to take him back.
Okay, so are you finished with that point? Because I just want to make a few points.
Go for it.
So, and I get why they're trying to do this from Lawrence's perspective, but it is not shocking in the least for a woman to take back a man who has cheated on her. It is not shocking in the least. That is the norm. That is the norm. What is shocking in most situations is for a man to take back a woman who has cheated on him. That would be the shocking part. And Chad, what? He made some smoothies? He watched some movies. He didn't do any work. I didn't see him talking about going to therapy. I didn't see him talking about trying to do anything to prove his fidelity to his fiance. He did the least amount of work and was taken back. That is not surprising. That is the norm. It is only shocking to Lawrence because he is very naive about relationships. That's all I have to say about that. So yes, maybe his world was rocked because it was like, oh, she took you back after all of that cheating. But no, it wasn't shocking, not to the regular person. Women forgive men who have cheated all the time. All the time. Somebody's probably doing it right now. Right now. So it wasn't shocking at all. At all. I was not shocked that they got back together. And I was not shocked that Chad had to do the bare minimum in order to make it happen. The end.
Did you put bitters in your drink? Exactly. So
I did not.
Back to what I was saying.
I put truth serum in my drink.
Bitters in your drink.
Truth serum in my drink.
So, anyways. So yeah, Lawrence is still dealing with the fact that he doesn't know if he did the right thing by not giving Issa a chance, or forgiving her, and maybe he's forgiven her now. But he misses her. He loves her. You can see it, and whether she chooses to see it or not, everyone else who's watching the show can see that Issa has those same feelings, and she loves Lawrence. And she was, when they were at the movies and they were going to see The Last Dragon, and Lawrence comes up in the line, she's excited.
Can I just say, because The Last Dragon is one of the best movies ever made and one of my all-time favorite movies. I used to watch that movie all the time. Shout out to Rudy Huxtable, who was in this movie when she was younger. This is one of the best movies, and I can understand why they were excited. Okay, you can continue.
Thank you. So anyway, she's excited when he shows up in line. She's, when he says, "Oh, I'm gonna go hang out with Chad." Like, they have these little flustered moments. Like, excuse me, it's almost cute. Like when you first meet somebody that you like, and you're like, "Oh, they're here," and then you start like, losing your train of thought and not being able to like speak full sentences. There are these awkward moments. That's what they're having when they're interacting with one another. And even when they're out on the field waiting for the movie to start, Issa is looking for Lawrence. She's checking for the guy. She still loves him too. So don't fake. Don't fake. She still loves him too. She's still looking for him.
I'm not faking anything. But I don't think Issa is checking for him in that way. I think she feels nostalgic about what the relationship used to be, because at the end of the day, they were together for 5 years, and it turns out that they were pretty good friends, like best friends. They know what each other like. They have inside jokes. They're very comfortable with each other. Like, he knew that she was gonna like Raisinets, which are disgusting. So yeah, I can get this vibe from both of them that they just like being in each other's company. I think she still loves him, but I think a lot of it has to deal with nostalgia and just reliving the fact that they did share a lot together. Like, they seem to be really good friends. So I'm not saying that she hates him, but I think a lot of it is nostalgia and her thinking like, oh, we used to do these things together. We had these things in common together. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Do you also tell little children that Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny are fake?
I do.
Oh, I can tell. But moving right along, because we're going really long, and we're trying not to have really long episodes anymore. But this is our last episode, so you guys might just have to suffer. But what we do see is Lawrence ends up on a date, and Issa ends up dealing with Nathan. We're gonna just throw that out there because we gotta move to the next subject, and that is Molly. And Molly is her own subject in this entire episode by herself, like she normally is, because Molly is having a hard time. And I think that in this episode, a lot of the people around Molly were tough on her, maybe too tough, particularly Issa. But since we're currently, right now, as we speak, at the movies, let's talk about Molly's ghost showing back up. Jared from season 1, who Molly treated terribly.
He's so cute.
He's still Jared. So, but Jared's standing in the line, Molly's standing in the line. She's, oh, look, there's Jared. And they, like, have these conversations. And it almost felt like Jared was excited to see Molly.
Yeah.
And, they're having this little witty banter. And then a dude shows up and starts talking to Jared. And Molly gets spooked because, of course, Molly thought that Jared was gay, because of that one incident that he had in undergrad. And she literally ran off from the guy. It just happens to be his brother that we find out. And it's like, and Jared happened to be there with his girlfriend anyways, who was nice. I didn't think she was attractive.
Here we go.
But I mean,
you vain and you need to deal with it, because that girl was cute.
She was not, and she definitely wasn't as cute as Molly is.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, in terms of, I don't know. If we're just going by attractiveness, Jared is losing that battle. He should have stuck with Molly. If we're just going by attractiveness,
kick your dog or something.
If we're just going by attractiveness,
okay.
Molly was cuter than her, but we don't know her as a person, so we're not.
Clearly, she got her stuff together. She got with Jared.
I guess, because yep. So anyway, but so that was just another incident of Molly like jumping to a conclusion, and I guess we're going to do this. I guess we'll talk about this backwards. So, in the end of the episode, Issa confronts Molly about something and pretty much says Molly always sees the worst in everyone. And you see it at the movies where, I don't know if it's seeing the worst in him necessarily, but always jumping to the worst conclusion for herself. Like, she jumps to that conclusion like, see, I told you he was gay. And, what was she saying? Like, her intuition was on point, or this, that, and the third.
I thought she was saying more so, but that she wasn't giving people the benefit of the doubt, too.
Yeah.
So, in that situation, that's true. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Molly has her own issues with men and, bisexuality or having same-sex experiences. But, yeah, she jumped to
apparently just having brothers, because she does say, gay, brother, it's all the same.
But I just think that she did jump to a conclusion, and she just felt without any evidence that she was right in trying. I don't know. She made a mess of the situation with Jared, and then she tried to basically say, instead of acknowledging how she messed up with Jared, she immediately said, oh, he's here with another guy. I was absolutely right. He's gay. But yeah, she had no reason for thinking that. It was just completely crazy. And yeah, I think, you know, Issa was hard on Molly in terms of giving her feedback, but maybe it's like been a long time coming, because I feel like Molly has been doing a lot of craziness in this season, and she deserved a good read. Like, she deserved it, to be honest. Like, leading up to this episode, I feel like she's been doing a lot of stuff that hasn't been good.
So one of the things that she did in the last episode was she stood in for her partner on the case and gave the presentation to the partners at the firm, which initially we see in the episode benefited her and him, at least from the partner's perspective, because the partners felt like they as a team did a good job. They got the Metro account in, and they were putting them both as a team, as co-partners on the case. Right. Now, Torian, who quite frankly I think is the issue in this situation, and not Molly. I don't think Molly did anything wrong by stepping in for her teammate who wasn't able to be there to present, you know, on the case. Right. And getting them the account and getting them co-partnership or counsel on this big case that the firm clearly cares about. And it was a win for the team. Neither one of the partners said, oh, Molly did a great job, and Torian, you can go help her out as her, second chair. Said, you guys were a good team. You stepped in, and the partner even said, you stepped in for Torian. Like, they understood whose case it was. They understood what Molly was doing. She was just helping him out. She just did it well. Like, quite frankly, that's the teammate I want. I want a teammate who is like, if I can't do it and we got it together, go for it. Yeah, her intentions might have been poor, but she still did it in a way that she showcased the team. And it's not like Torian lost anything. I think Torian's ego is the issue to me in this situation, but they that's why I say they're being hard on Molly, because they make it seem like she did something wrong. She did something wrong by being good at her job.
With this situation, I keep going back and forth, because on the one hand, I am still firm in my belief that she shouldn't have been trying to cozy up to Torian in the first place, because he's an ass. But I also feel like in this situation, I don't think she's completely wrong, but the more I think about it, I don't know if she's completely right either. She's still new at the firm, and so even though she didn't try to take credit for his work, she didn't try to do anything that was blatantly underhanded, I can sort of get the sense that there's like a hierarchy that she didn't respect, and maybe that's why he feels a kind of way, like, you're new, we were doing this together, I told you I wanted to review the presentation before we did it, and then you went behind my back and did it anyway. Like, I can see him, he's petty, he's arrogant, but I also feel like in this situation, when you're new, you don't really know the people that well. I think that Molly it would have been better for her to hold off and take the loss in terms of not shining on her own than being in the situation where she is right now, where she has no allies. So do I think she was completely wrong? No. But do I think she was completely right? No. I feel like it goes back to what her therapist said, like, she was basically saying, do you want to shine or do you want to be hopeful? And I think Molly is so concentrated on how to shine at her job, she is not thinking 5 steps ahead when she needs to. So yes, he's petty, he's wrong himself, but at the end, it's like, yeah, you got your moment to shine, but you're there alone. Like, he's giving you this big case to work on by yourself. So I don't know. I just feel like Molly really didn't think this through and think about the repercussions of what happened if she did this. Like, she was so concerned about shining in front of the partners, and now it's backfired.
But see, this is where I disagree, because sure, you call it a hierarchy, and Molly even acknowledges that, like, this is just like her old firm. There's a hierarchy, but it's not a hierarchy, it's a patriarchy. And that's what she's fighting against. She's fighting against a patriarchy, because if Torian had gone behind her back and done the same thing, everybody would have said he's a go-getter, he's doing what's right, he's showing the partners that he's doing good work and everything else, and he would have gave him a lot of credit and wouldn't have got any blowback from it. So I don't see that she did anything wrong. She's at a freaking law firm. She is going for partners. She wants to be on partner track. It's cutthroat in these law firms. Why she got to sit back and let the man shine? I'm not even a feminist, and like, why she got to sit back and let the man shine? Like,
I don't
do
think
what you gotta do.
I don't think it's about letting him shine, so to speak. I think it's about them working as a team. And if he did verbalize to her, like, look, I want to look at the presentation again before we do it. I just think it's a certain way that you can do things. Like, I think, again, it's a hard situation. I don't think she's completely wrong for what she did, but I can see how, especially with her being so new and then being that aggressive, like, out the gate, I just don't know, like, yeah, you got the win, but you're out there on a limb by yourself. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. I just feel like she didn't position herself very well in this situation. And it's going to come back to bite her. Like, she's going to have to work that much harder in order to get back into the good graces of not only Torian, but the 2 black female attorneys that she burned bridges with as well. So maybe she doesn't care, but it's clear that she does. Like, she felt hurt when she saw the 3 of them working together and she was by herself. She felt alone. So sometimes it's not about being the star. It's about knowing what your role is, and it's going to take her some time to do that. I just feel like she's moving a little bit too fast.
She was hurt and she was alone, but that plays into the fact that Issa just read her and then said, do you have to be this person? Do you have to be a partner and alone? Because that's not you. And then she walks out the room in a big huff because she finally finds out that Molly kept Nathan from her.
Wait, what do you mean?
When they're having the conversation at the end.
So you don't think Molly would have been hurt if Issa hadn't read her about that whole situation?
Probably wouldn't have struck her like that. She probably still would have felt like, you know what? He feels some type of way. All right, I'm going to handle this case like I know how to handle this
But
case.
Issa knows her better than anybody knows her. So her pointing that out, that she was being cutthroat and that wasn't really her personality, I think it affected her because she knew she was right. Like, that's not her personality. Like, you can be cutthroat, but there's a way to do it. And I think the fact that Issa brought that up, it cut closer to her because Issa knows her better than anyone. Like, again, you don't have to be cutthroat. You don't have to be a shark in order to succeed in the workplace. And yeah, that's probably something he would have done to her, but does she really want to measure herself against this asshole? Like, no. He is not the metric. He's just not.
In this situation, he is.
No.
He's the guy that the partners are always having conversations with. He's the guy that the partners are always conferencing cases with. He's the guy that the partners are always asking about, always putting on the big cases. He is the metric. So if she wants to be the person that the partners are always looking to and wants to be a partner one day, she's got to outshine him. She's got to do better than him.
But he also has alienated people, and I guess we should move on after this, but he has also alienated other people within the firm because of his tactics. And does Molly really want to be that person? It seems like she doesn't. And if she doesn't want to be that person, then why try to emulate his behavior? Like, no. Create your own path to success. You don't have to do the same thing that this jerk guy is doing. I just feel like it was a mistake for her to move this quickly when she just started, and it was a mistake for her to pattern her roadmap to success after this guy when he was clearly not liked by his colleagues. So that's just my perspective.
Who had no problem buddy-buddying with him after he got burned.
I mean, they also know him better than they know her. At least it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And Molly is the devil you don't know.
All right, well, anyways, finishing out the episode, Nathan and Issa finally get to have a conversation. And yeah, Molly and Andrew had a conversation, but we're going to move away from those guys. Nathan and Issa finally get to have a conversation about why Nathan went ghost. How'd you feel about that?
I just felt like it was a little too vague for my liking. Like, I felt he was hinting at having some sort of mental health issues, but he really wouldn't say it.
I thought like he was describing depression. He couldn't be just sad and like, things aren't working for me. I'm going to go back to Houston for a month and cut everybody off. People I know who really cut people off are clinically depressed.
And if that's the case, okay, so if that's the case, then I'm willing to cut him some slack. But it was just the way that he was phrasing it. I was just like, spit it out, like say it, like we both grown. Like, if you were really depressed...
It's tough to talk about mental disease, particularly in the black community who, one, wants to either pray the mental disease away or tell you, oh, you all right.
But Issa wasn't trying to do it. Issa wasn't trying to do that. I don't know. I get that they might be trying to work up to what he was trying to reveal to her, but I also felt like it was vague in a way that I just kept saying, like, I think I know what you're trying to say, but not really, so that makes me side-eye you still. But if he really is having mental health issues and he just doesn't know how to address them with other people, that's obviously something he needs to work on. And again, I respect the fact that he went back, dropped off the flowers. You know, Issa came back. So yeah, I respect the fact that he's at least trying to talk to her about it. But it just was so vague to me. I'm like, you trying to say something, but what you really trying to say? I don't know. That's just like, just spit it out. Just tell me where you were. Tell me what's going on. But I get that it might be very difficult, like he said, very difficult for him to talk about. Maybe he just doesn't know how to say it. Maybe he's never said it because he hasn't been in relationships before. He's never had to take ownership of how he has felt when this stuff happens because he hasn't had to deal with other people. So maybe that might be it. I just felt like I needed more from him and he wasn't giving it, and that just made me frustrated.
Yeah, I feel like what he was describing, or what we were supposed to be led to believe that he was describing, was depression. He didn't call it depression, and he even copped to just, oh, what'd she say? Oh, so you were in a bad mood and you decided to ghost me? And he was like, yeah, it's a, shitty excuse or whatever. And I don't know. It was weak. It would have been a better storyline had he went to jail. It was weak. It was weak.
Hey, you want him to get a catch a case?
No, because they had an opportunity to actually, if it had been depression, like, address it. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it's because it was in the last, what was it?
I was
10
just
minutes
like, it
of
was
the
like
show?
the last 5-10 minutes.
So they didn't have time to address it, but then that's what I'm saying. Have him catch a case then, because it's like, you're either going to make it look stupid by saying he was in a bad mood and just didn't talk to her for a month. You're either going to deal with a real issue and say he was suffering from depression and didn't know how to, address the situation, or is in a space where he can't actually communicate with people well when that happens. Or because you have 5 minutes left, you're just going to say, oh yeah, remember that investigation that I, went down and talked to the people for? They threw me in for a misdemeanor.
No, okay. So now that we're talking about this just jogged my memory of something else. So when Issa and Lawrence had that blowout fight in season 2, I think somehow it came out somewhere in the season that Lawrence, one of the reasons why he couldn't get motivated and get a job, blah, 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 was the fact that he was depressed, and Issa acknowledged that she really didn't know how to handle it and address it, so she didn't. So maybe that's where they're going with Nathan. The fact that, assuming that Issa lets him back into her life, maybe it's just as friends, that she will somehow have to deal with someone who's close to her, who's, I don't know, has depressive episodes, I don't know. But it just reminds me of the fact that Lawrence, when he was going through his situation, she acknowledged that she didn't know how to deal with it. So maybe they want to bring that back up again with Nathan. I don't know. But I just feel like, I don't know. I know a lot of people were guessing that he was in jail, but I also feel like that would have been a cop-out if he was in jail.
Well then, okay, so maybe it wasn't weak writing. Maybe they wanted it to be such a flimsy excuse because they actually want to let us know, oh, you guys have all these warm fuzzies about Nathan and Issa, but Nathan's a fuckboy. Maybe that's why it's such a weak excuse. Maybe they want us to let you, hey, Nathan's a fuckboy.
I feel like he's on the line. I feel like he's towing the line between fuckboy and naive boy. So we'll see.
That's not a thing.
That is the thing. That is the thing. I'm giving him maybe 2 brownie points for A, never being in a relationship before, so it sounds like he doesn't know how to be in a relationship, and B, at least having the courage to show up face to face and offer what sounds like sort of kind of a sincere apology. Or he might in fact just be, trying to get some points with his Hazel Eyes or whatever the heck. I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. So I feel like he is towing a line. He's gonna fall on either side, and we'll just have to see where he falls.
You can't trust them light-skinned hazel-eyed folks. Anyways, so one last comment.
We need to practice.
We do. So one last comment. Do you think Issa's gonna get that show together?
I think she will.
I think she's gonna get the show together too. Anyway, so this is the end of our episode, the end of our season. We've had 8 great shows with you guys. Thank you guys for watching Ryan Reviews. Thank you guys for watching Insecure thanks for watching Insecure with us, even though we've given them 8 episodes of free publicity. This is our final toast. What are we going to toast to?
We are going to toast to Issa getting the glow at the end of the episode.
I'll toast to that. All right. See you guys next season.
Bye.